So stages of the economic cycle. The economic cycle, it goes through what happens when employment increases, consumer spending increases, and business investment increases. So when the economy is in expansion, employment increases, consumer spending increases, and business investment increases. And then when the economy is in recession, employment, consumer spending, and business investment decrease. So those are, and then a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. So that's what a recession is. And so right here is multiple choice questions, test your knowledge. What is the definition of recession? So the answer would be yes. So it'd be B, a decrease in real GDP for 2 consecutive quarters. Great job, Mark. So that's correct. So that is the definition of recession. So the quote by Heraclitus is very accurate. Change is the only thing that is constant. That's very true. So the economies go back and forth between expansion and contraction. So employment, productivity, and total demand increase during expansions, and then they decrease during contractions. Contraction is another word for recession. So key terms that you need to know are business cycle model, and that's what happens when recessions happen, expansions happen, and how the economy grows and shrinks over time. And the aggregate demand is the total demand for a nation's output. That includes consumption, government spending, business investment, and net exports. And aggregate supply is the entire supply of goods and services produced by a nation's businesses. And then expansion is when output is increasing. Recession is when output is falling. Depression is a large recession. Peak is when the output has stopped increasing and begins to decrease. Trough is when the economy has hit its rock bottom. So GDP is at its lowest point, and then it'll start to increase again after. Then recovery is when the economy recovers after the trough/recession. Potential output is when the economy is at full employment. So it's producing as much as it possibly can based on all the resources it has. And then growth trend is the straight line in the business cycle model. So it's upward sloping. Positive output gap is the difference between actual output and potential output. And it shows that the economy is doing better than it potentially can. Sure, yeah, I'll add this too, and I'll put these links into Seneca also. Yeah, here's the link to Khan Academy. And negative output gap is the difference between actual output and potential output. So that means that the economy is doing worse than it potentially can do. So the business cycle shows how the economy is doing over time. It could be in either expansion. We'll draw the graph out for you here. So it could be either in so right here, how it looks is it looks like this. It's like a sine graph. So this right here would be expansion. Positive GDP growth. So this would be 0%. So this would be right here, 0%. So then this would be GDP growth. And then this would be time. So that'd be expansion. And then the top of the business cycle would be peak. And then this would be recession right here. And then this would be trough. So this is what happens over time. This cycle repeats itself over and over and over. So it always goes like this over time. And so, some recessions are bigger than others, and some are smaller than others. So we can have smaller or bigger recessions. So that's how it looks here. And make sure to label your y-axis and x-axis like that. So that's how it would look here. And expansion is when real GDP is increasing and unemployment is decreasing. Peak is when output stops increasing and starts decreasing. Recession is when output is decreasing and unemployment is increasing. Trough is when the recession ends and output starts increasing again. So the output gap is the difference between actual output and potential output in the business cycle. So potential output is when all the resources are being used efficiently in an economy. And output gaps happen when the what we're producing is greater or less than potential output. And then when actual output is higher than the potential output, the economy overheats. So it's growing at a very high level that we cannot sustain. So the unemployment rate is lower than the natural rate of unemployment. So eventually we'll enter into recession. So that's what happened with the Canadian economy recently. Inflation was extremely high, where we were getting too much price increases. So the Bank of Canada had to increase interest rates and cause a recession because that was the only way to bring down prices. So this was exactly what happened here. The problem with overheating of an economy is prices start to increase too much. And that's what happened with our economy last year in 2022. Prices increased too much and we weren't able to afford a lot of things. So the government had to stop that through increasing interest rates. That was very important, and it's caused a recession in 2022. So then if actual output is lower than net potential output, aggregate demand and aggregate supply is fallen, and that leads to a reduction in employment and output. And when a negative output gap exists, the unemployment rate will be higher than the natural rate of unemployment. So the business cycle will enter trough and enter recovery expansion. So potential output is the level of real GDP that happens if all resources are used efficiently. So this is a good graph of the business cycle. So over time, long-term economic growth increases. This is the straight line here is the economic growth line. But as time goes on, we get into expansion, recessions. But over time, the economic growth rises. So that's due to technology growth, productivity growth. Yeah. And then the business cycle changes are due to cyclical changes. So like recessions and expansions. So anything cyclical is recessions and expansions. So that's what would happen here. And then the production possibilities curve, we talked about this recently. If we're at X, so I'll ask the class, what would we be efficient at X? Would we be at would actual output be greater, less, or equal to potential output at X? So I'll ask the class this. Does Abisha want to try this one? Yes, less, exactly. So inefficient, good job. And less, so actual output would be less than potential output. Great job. Great job. And then for Y, would we be efficient at Y? And would actual output be greater, less, or equal to potential output at Y? So does Amrutha want to try this one? Yes, efficient, equal, all good. Yeah, efficient and equal. That's great. Great job, everyone. So efficient and equal. Great job, everyone. So that's correct. Excellent work, everyone. That was great. And then what about Z? Would we be efficient at Z? Would actual output be greater, less, or equal to potential output at Z? The greater, yeah, greater. Yeah, exactly. So so greater, it's unclear if it would be efficient because we don't have the resources to produce there. And then yeah, greater actual output greater than potential output. Exactly what happened in Canada last year where inflation was too high. So that's what happened here. Good job, everyone, on that one. Yeah, so that's great. Great job, everyone, on that one. So this is great to show. This can show the business cycle. So here the business cycle would be an expansion at Z, and then recession at X. Yeah, so that's what happens. Recession at X, expansion at Z. So that's a great job, everyone, on that one. So expansion is not necessarily economic growth. Yeah, so that's a good thing to know. And then the economy can produce beyond its full employment level of output. So that's what happens when the point is right of the curve there. So let's ask these questions here. So why does unemployment rise during the recession phase of the business cycle? So we'll answer the first one first. So does Ashish want to try the first one? Why does unemployment rise during the recession phase of the business cycle? So it rises because the output is less than potential. So they're not producing as much as they should be producing. Yes, Rahul's got a good answer for this. Business would be less, production efficiency would be low. That's true. And then what's the difference between a recession and a depression? Can somebody research this? Look it up on Google. Depression is more like a severe decline that lasts for years. That's true. Great job, Mark. That's true. And then 3, if a country is producing beyond its production possibilities curve, what phase of the business cycle is most likely experiencing? Great job, Rahul. That's a good answer. And then 3, if a country is producing beyond its production possibilities curve, what phase of the business cycle is it most likely experiencing? Expansion, overheating. Great job. That's great. Excellent answers, everyone. That's great. Great job on that, everyone. So I'll post these 2 links on our page here on learning content. So everyone can have it. Just post it here, and then we'll move on to our next activity here. Okay, so let's try this here. Which of the following best describes the 4 phases of the business cycle in the correct order? So does Athira want to show this one? See. So it'll be recession, trough, peak, and expansion. But good try. Good try. Wait, so it will actually be A. Yeah, A. Great job, everyone. So A, trough. So everyone got A. A lot of people got A, so good job on that. So that's trough, expansion, peak, and recession. And then if the current rate of unemployment is equal to the natural rate of unemployment, which of the following statements are true? Does Autry want to try this one? So current real domestic gross current real gross domestic product is equal to potential GDP. Great job, everyone. And then what does a graphical model of the business cycle show? Does Biham want to try this one? Great job, everyone. Short run fluctuations in GDP, but a long run increase over GDP over time. Great work, everyone. And then which of the following best describes what is occurring when an economy's actual output is above its full employment level output? Does Cash want to try this one? Great job of positive output gap, everyone. Great job. Great job, everyone. So so everyone did a great job on that one. So we'll do the next activity here. So we're gonna try this here. Just we'll try this. So which of the following correctly describes the sequence of phases in a typical business cycle? Does a Dom want to try this one? Good job. Expansion, peak, recession, trough. Great job. And then the nation of Asilia spent $200 million in goods and services in 2010. 2021, in 2011, the country spent $220 million in goods and services, even though output decreased compared to 2010. What happened to real GDP and nominal GDP between these 2 years? Great job. Real GDP decreased, nominal GDP increased. Great job, everyone. Then Hercules lost his job as a tailor after his company purchased robotic sewing machines to replace him. Now he cannot find a job because nobody wants to hire tailors. Which the following best describes Hercules' employment situation? Good job. Structurally unemployed because they got robots to replace the worker. So that would be structural unemployment. And then a steady decline in the price level for many years indicates that Restaurant has been experiencing deflation. Which of the following agents is most likely to be negatively impacted by the deflation in Restaurant? So instead, this would be so B isn't the answer. Let's try A. So A is the right answer. So the king who owes a lot of money to the Iron Bank. So if deflation is happening, if you owe money to the bank or somebody else, deflation will be negative for you. So it'll be A. And then which of the following best explains why GDP is an imperfect measure of well-being? So does Fidelia want to try? So its GDP was never intended to measure well-being. So it's never shown well-being for a society. It's just shown how much production they have. And then according to the circular flow model, how is the GDP of a nation determined? Does Bell want to try this one? So by determining either total household income, total household expenditures, or the total revenues of all firms in the nation. If unemployed workers decide to stop looking for a job and instead enroll in further education, how will the number of employed workers and the unemployment rate change? So does Hassan want to try this one? The number of employed workers does not change, the unemployment rate decreases. Great job. And then which of the following best describes what is necessary for consumers to maintain the same standard of living over time if there is inflation? Does Hassan want to try this one? Consumer incomes must increase at the same rate as the official rate of inflation. And then the current rate of unemployment in Berlin is 3%. Economists estimate that frictional unemployment is 5% and structural unemployment is 2%, which of the following best describes the amount of cyclical unemployment in Berlin and the current output in the economy. Does Janine want to try? Great job, Janine. Yeah, cyclical unemployment is negative 4%, greater than full employment output. So the current rate of unemployment is 3%, and the natural rate of unemployment is 7%. That's calculated by doing frictional plus structural. And you do 3 minus 7%, and you get negative 4%. So great job, everyone. Great game. Great game on that one. Show summary. This is all available on the Khan Academy's link that I posted. So great job, everyone. So we'll do our next activity here. We're just going to watch this quick video on the 4 stages of the business cycle here.
Demandez la carte BMO et Cliff.
Why it's important to know when business cycles are important for your financial decisions. So so for this, when with stock investing, a lot of it has to do with interest rates. When interest rates go down, the stock market usually goes up. So when interest rates go down, the stock market goes up, usually. Also, inflation rates, also high inflation rates are more likely for better investment returns. So track the inflation and the interest rates. That's probably the best strategy. Just investing when the interest rate and inflation rate are low or decreasing. So that's probably the best way to invest in those cases. So yeah, that's what I recommend. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this worksheet here. I'll share my screen here. So inflation and the consumer price index. So inflation is the persistent increase in price levels over time. It shows the decrease in the purchasing power of the currency. So you can purchase less for the same amount of money than before. So low inflation is good. Having low inflation between 1 to 5% is good for your economy. but negative inflation is not good for your economy. And then you want to have the real GDP growth rate higher than the inflation rate. Inflation is bad when the inflation is bad when there's too much of it and the economy is overheating. So we don't want that either. And then calculating the inflation rate, we'll learn about that here. So if food is weighted at 40% of the inflation rate and food goes up by 10%, how much would that contribute to the inflation rate here? Does Catherine want to try? Yes, exactly. So what you would do is 0.40 times 10 equals 4. Great job. Good job, everyone. And then for housing, you do the same thing, just different numbers. So does Kurt want to try the next one? 0.25. Yes. Great job. And then what about the next one? What would be the contribution for the next one? Just make sure you want to try. So 1.6. Good job. And then what about consumer goods? Yes. Excellent. And does somebody want to add these all together? $7.15. $5.25, 6.25. 7.15%. So good job, everyone. That's how you calculate inflation. Yeah. So the contribution to inflation is calculated by weight, percentage weight times percentage change of prices divided by 100. So CPI is always expressed in relation to base year, where price levels are said to be at 100. So, for example, if the base year was 2018 and there was 10% inflation in 2019, the CPI index for 2018 would be 100, and for 2019 would be 110. So if 2020 is the base year for Maya and Bodia, what is the CPI index for 2020 and 2021? Just maybe we want to try. Yes, 100, great. And then what about 2021? So it would be 107.15. So we take this number and add it to the 100. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. So good try, everyone. So we just add that to the 100. So good try, everyone. Thanks for trying, everyone. And then using CPI to calculate the inflation rate over several years. So we have to use this formula here: nominal GDP divided by CPI times 100 equals real GDP. So does everyone want to try that? Yes, 1 million. That's true. And then do the next one. 0.2 million. 8. Yes, good job, Sanjana. That's correct. Great job. And then what about year 3? So check. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I'll have to reopen that. I'm sorry about that one. I clicked it to close it. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'll check if anyone. I'll check if you got if everyone got year 3 correct. So I think everyone got year 3. Good job, Sanjana and Mark. Excellent work. So that's how you do that. And then year 4. I'll just write out how everyone did it. So it'd be 1 million divided by 100 times 100 equals 1 million. And then here 1 million divided by 108 times 100 equals that. Then 1.5 million divided by 115 times 100 equals that. And then this one, 2 million divided by 125 times 100 equals. Then this one, 2.5 million divided by 140 times 100 equals, yeah. So I'll double check the next one. So the next one is 2 million divided by 125 times 100. 1.6 million. Good job, everyone. And then the next one, everyone got that. Great job, everyone. And then the next one, 2.5 million divided by 140 times 100 is 1,785,714.29. Good job, everyone, on that. It was great. So that's how you get real GDP. That's how you get real GDP here. So here we got to figure out CPI. So we can take the information from that table to find the inflation rate. So we use this formula here to find the inflation rate for year 3, year 5, and between year 2 and 4. So good question. Good question on what is the difference between GDP and real GDP. So real GDP is the amount of goods and services produced in adjusted for inflation. While so you get rid of inflation from that. It's just the change in goods and services. And then GDP is when you don't take out the price increase. So real GDP is a better measure because you're just measuring the change in goods and services, like the amount of goods and services in the economy. GDP, the problem is with GDP is they don't take out the price increase, so it can be overestimated, skewed because of the price increase. So that's the difference. Good question on that. So real GDP is a better measure. It's a way better measure of how the economy is doing because GDP, it can be flawed because of the price increase. So what's the inflation rate for Vietland in year 3? So you'd be using these numbers here. So base for A would be year 2. Yeah, good question. Base for A would be year 2. Okay, I'll test that. So it would be 115 minus 108 divided by 108. So that is that's 6.5%. Good job, everyone. 6.5%. And then the next one, year 5, the base would be year 4. So 140 minus 125 divided by 125 equals that'd be 12%. So good job, everyone, on that. And then year 2 and year 4, the base would be year 2 in this case. So it'd be 125 minus 108 divided by 108. So that would be that one there. Then that'd be 15.7%. Yeah, good job, everyone. So that's how you calculate inflation. So I'll post this. I'll post this here. Post this into the into Blackboard under learning content. So it'll be under learning content. So good job, everyone, on that. We'll put this here. So that's completed. So we're gonna do our next activity here. So let's try this. So which mode do you want to try?
Crypto.
Which one?
The crypto hack.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Okay, we'll try this one. The join link will be in the chat here.